The truth about the Underground Railroad, debunking myths and sharing real stories. For generations, the Underground Railroad has been taught as a simple tale of escaped enslaved people fleeing in the night, following the North Star, with Harriet Tubman leading them to freedom. But the real history is far more complex, filled with stories of incredible bravery, strategic deception, and secret networks of black and white allies working together against an oppressive system. There are many myths about the Underground Railroad, some exaggerations, some oversimplifications, and some outright falsehoods. Who really ran the Underground Railroad? How did it work? And what truths have been lost in the way history has been told? Today, we uncover the real stories behind the Underground Railroad, debunk common myths, and reveal the truth about the people who risked everything for freedom. The reality of the Underground Railroad. More than just tunnels and secret codes. The name Underground Railroad makes it sound like a hidden system of tunnels, secret codes, and an organized network of stations. In reality, it was much more informal and dangerous than most people realize. Truth. The Underground Railroad wasn't a literal railroad. There were no actual trains, no tracks, and no tunnels leading from the south to the north. Instead, it was a loose network of abolitionists, free black communities, and self-liberated enslaved people who helped others escape by any means necessary. Truth. The routes were not mapped out in an easy-to-follow way. Freedom seekers used rivers, swamps, forests, and secret safe houses to move north. Many traveled alone or in small groups, and most had no direct assistance at all. Truth. The Underground Railroad did not only lead to the north. Many enslaved people escaped south to Mexico, west to Native American territories, or even overseas to places like the Caribbean and Canada. The Underground Railroad was not a single entity. It was a series of individuals and communities working in secret, sometimes at great personal cost. Debunking the myths of the Underground Railroad. There are many myths about how the Underground Railroad functioned. Let's break down some of the biggest misconceptions and uncover the truth. Myth 1. The Underground Railroad was run by white abolitionists. Truth. While some white abolitionists played a role, black people were the primary architects of their own freedom. Free black communities in the North, like those in Philadelphia, Boston, and New York, were crucial in organizing escapes and providing shelter. Formerly enslaved people, including Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass, risked their lives to lead others to freedom. Black mariners, businessmen, and even preachers helped smuggle escapees using their influence and resources. Although white abolitionists, like Quakers and religious activists, did help, the real leaders of the Underground Railroad were black Americans themselves. Myth 2. All enslaved people escaped in the dead of night following the North Star. Truth. While some did, not all escapes happened under cover of darkness. Some freedom seekers hid in plain sight using forged documents, disguises, or even traveling by train and boat. Henry Box Brown famously mailed himself in a wooden crate to escape slavery in Virginia and reach Philadelphia. William and Ellen Craft pretended to be a sickly white man and his enslaved servant. Ellen, a light-skinned black woman, disguised herself as a white male slave owner, while her husband William played the role of her enslaved companion. Escapes were often strategic and well-planned, not just desperate dashes through the woods. Myth 3. Once enslaved people reached the North, they were safe. Truth. Even in the North, formerly enslaved people were not always free. The Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 allowed slave catchers to kidnap black people and return them to slavery, even if they had lived in the North for years. Some northern states actively helped slave catchers, while others, like Ohio and Massachusetts, became strongholds of resistance. Because of this, many escapees continued beyond the U.S., especially to Canada, where slavery was illegal and they could not be legally returned. Freedom wasn't just about escaping, it was about staying free. The heroes of the Underground Railroad, real stories of resistance. While Harriet Tubman is the most famous conductor, there were many unsung heroes who helped shape the Underground Railroad. 1. Harriet Tubman, the ultimate freedom fighter. Harriet Tubman escaped slavery in 1849, but didn't stop there. She made over 13 trips back to the South, rescuing at least 70 people and guiding them to freedom. Despite the danger of being captured and killed, she continued to work as a spy and scout for the Union Army during the Civil War, leading even more enslaved people to safety. She once said, "I never ran my train off the track, and I never lost a passenger." Her bravery remains one of the greatest testaments to Black resistance in American history. 2. The Vigilance Committees, early civil rights organizations. In cities like Philadelphia and New York, vigilance committees were groups of free Black people who helped fund, organize, and defend those escaping slavery. The Philadelphia Vigilance Committee, led by Black abolitionist William Still, helped hundreds of people escape and documented their stories. These committees were early forms of Black-led activism, proving that resistance was organized and intentional. 3. Josiah Henson, the inspiration for Uncle Tom's Cabin. Josiah Henson was an enslaved man who escaped to Canada, where he helped rescue others and build a free Black community. His autobiography inspired Harriet Beecher Stowe's novel Uncle Tom's Cabin, though his real-life courage was far more powerful than fiction. Why the Underground Railroad still matters today. The Underground Railroad wasn't just about escape, it was about resistance, self-determination, and the fight for Black freedom. Here's why it still matters. It reveals the power of Black resistance. Enslaved people did not wait to be freed. They took their freedom into their own hands. It shows the strength of Black-led movements. The Underground Railroad was an example of Black-led activism long before the Civil Rights Movement. It highlights the ongoing fight for justice. The same courage that helped people escape slavery is needed today in the fight against systemic racism, mass incarceration, and economic inequality. The Underground Railroad is not just history, it's a legacy. Final thoughts. The real story of the Underground Railroad is one of courage, strategy, and Black excellence. By debunking the myths and sharing the truth, we honor the real heroes who fought for freedom and paved the way for future generations. If this history matters to you, like, comment, and share this video to spread the truth. Let's make sure these stories are never forgotten, and subscribe for more powerful Black history content.